Greetings, I'm Jen, here to facilitate a short recovery stretch session focused on lower body, particularly if you are a runner. This is a great stretch to incorporate if you are a runner. I would recommend a couple of prop suggestions if you have a strap or a band, something long that ideally does not stretch at all or is difficult to stretch. Let's grab that and put it near your space, near your mat if you're using your mat. And then I actually have just a small pillow that I'm going to use between my knees for a twist when we kind of just rinse out at the very end, as I like having a little space between my legs when I take a twist. So it's just an offering that you could maybe grab as well. While I start some music, I invite you to come to your space, your mat, or wherever you're taking on this stretch and start to make your way to a tabletop pose. So we just want to take a moment to kind of recognize our lower back and just give a little space lower back to kind of arrive and help support the stretches that we're going to take. So as you make your way into tabletop pose, spread your fingers wide and maybe just start to shift a little bit in your body. Feel the tops of your feet, your ankles relax, and perhaps start to find some cow and cat movements, starting to use some breath. I like inhales to cow and exhales to cat, and really just being mindful of where you're coming to this practice. We don't need to make these movements as big as they can possibly be. We're just giving ourselves this kind of greeting and check-in with our back, our spine. So as we move through our stretches, we've just kind of said, hey, thanks, lower back. So whatever feels good. You can move side to side, front to back, any other direction that just kind of feels inherently delightful to your body. Feel free to let your head sway, your neck sway. And then as you're ready, just to give ourselves a little spine stretch, though we are focused on lower body today, let's curl the toes under in your tabletop, walk your hands forward quite a bit toward the top of your space, and let your heart soften down as your tailbone draws away. So almost imagining someone has a string at your tailbone, they're trying to pull you up and away out of your fingertips. Soften your chest down, and just breathe into the length of your entire back body. Maybe it would feel good to just kind of move through the head and neck. If your forehead is touching, you can turn your head a bit side to side. Just find a breath to find some space in your body. Exhale, let go. When you're ready, let's come back to tabletop pose. And from there, we'll take the right leg long behind, connect the toes to the ground. Give yourself a little movement front to back. You might feel some release in your foot, in your ankles, in your calf potentially. So if it feels good to hold, you could energize that right heel back and down and just stay. This is a great time to explore the ankles and stretch the feet in different directions. So with my weight over my shoulders, I'm going to turn to kind of the outer edge of my foot and put a little gentle pressure on. I'm going to actually turn to the top of my foot and put a little pressure down, maybe the arch side. Be really kind of mindful and careful about this. If you don't often find these different side stretches, you can create a little reaction in your foot that might get tense. So just kind of take this really gentle. If you don't do this often, I would, especially again, if you're a runner, to keep the ankles strong and resilient. And then when you're ready, let's return right knee under left. I like to do just a little cow cat to make sure I wasn't getting, shall we say, cattywampus in the spine. And then we'll take the left leg long behind, curl the toes under, similar offerings, but just kind of notice if you feel anything different. So we do carry a lot of asymmetries in our body. So feel free to find, again, some stillness, move front to back. Feel free to roll again to different edges of the feet. You might just find there's a little different sensation. Give yourself that time to breathe and to notice what you're feeling, linger somewhere, right? So anytime we're just kind of finding these movements, feel free to pause somewhere. And then when you're ready, bringing your left knee again back underneath your right knee. Let's inhale to cow, exhale to cat. Can you stay and just kind of round and walk your hands back toward your feet? And we're going to try to sit. So you could sit heels down, or sitting on your heels with the tops of your feet down, and keep as much pressure in the hands as this allows, because this is a big stretch in the knees and the quadricep. I would encourage you to maybe explore kind of toe squat, or we sometimes call it broken toe. Sounds really mean, I know. Curl the toes under and see if you can put some weight to sit. And you might be able to come all the way up in either shape. This one I practice often. This broken toe squat, huge, wonderful stretch for calf, Achilles, ankles, the feet. This is a great way to prevent plantar fasciitis. And again, keep as much pressure on your hands. We do not stay in pain. If this is painful, come out. If you are feeling some mild discomfort, I would really encourage you to work through this and maybe put this into your routine. If you'd like to, I'm going to just kind of shimmy myself temporarily back to tabletop pose and just uncurl and tap the feet out, especially if you took that broken toe. This can feel good to just get some blood flow back. And then let's once again inhale to cow, exhale round to cat, walk your hands back, but this time let's roll up onto the knees, stack your spine, shoulders, neck, head, just feel yourself really elongate in the body. Maybe again, even though we're lower body focused, you just kind of want to move around through the head, neck, and shoulders a bit. And then let's put a little bit more weight in your left knee. Let's step your right foot forward, but to find more of kind of a 90-90 shape. So we're going to take two variations of this low lunge stretch. You could press your hands interlaced onto your right thigh, or you could bring hands into your back pockets. Can you lift and lengthen your chest and heart and spine and feel almost like you're tucking your left glute underneath to feel a little stretch in that left hip flexor? So I'm really focused on that tuck and press forward to focus on that left hip flexor for just a moment. And then kind of soften, and maybe you walk your right foot further forward as you come a little bit more deeply into that low lunge. You could reach your arms up here. They could stay at your heart or at your hips, right? Whatever kind of expression of upper body just feels good to you here. Just try to keep your shoulders relaxed and feel kind of that distinction between collapsing into flexibility versus softening, but still lifting and lengthening your spine. So as we just kind of really collapse and drop in, we can often add a little crunching sensation at the low back. So really try to find that sweet spot where there's surrender, but not just, if all of that makes any sense. And then when you're ready, let's bring your hands down. If they were lifted, shift your weight back to just help yourself bring your right knee back next to your left. I'm going to take a breath up and reach. Hands come down. I'm just going to take just some gentle kind of rotations of my spine, just a slow little release. Always trying to really care for our back and spine with all of our activities, really. And then a little more weight in your right knee to step your left foot forward. Again, let's stop in kind of more of that 90-90. And then you could do that kind of interlace press into the thigh. If that kind of distance of your hands feels good, you could bring hands to your back pockets. And again, I'm trying to really kind of tuck and squeeze. You might actually squeeze your glute muscle to find more length in front. So kind of that complementary, right? Something is tight behind so the opposing muscle can get some length. And just find some breath, right? Depending on the tension here, you might be noticing that elongating. You might have to kind of emphasize that squeeze and push a little more. And then soften for a moment. And then again, you might have to kind of shimmy your left foot further forward as you start to soften into your low crescent lunge. And I just really play. Sometimes I literally do kind of move myself a little fluid here to just make sure I'm finding some space in my hips without collapsing. I tend to check that I can wiggle and see my front big toe. Your knee could go out past your ankle if that feels okay to your knee, but typically we want to have just that stack of knee and ankle. Give yourself another big breath in and a breath out. And then if your arms are lifted at all, we'll bring the hands down, again, shifting your weight back to bring left knee next to right. And I'm going to take a reach up and stretch and just really thoughtfully hinge through my spine to come back to tabletop pose. Again, give yourself kind of a wiggle or a shimmy here in tabletop if that would feel good. And then offering you to either go onto the belly or we're going to lay on the left side to start with. So if you're okay being on your belly today, let's walk your hands forward, pause in a low plank, just really being thoughtful about how we lower down. So chest is up, spine is long, hug the elbows in as you lower down. When you get there, if you're on the belly, let's rest your chin on your hands, bend your knees, and just gently kind of windshield wiper sway the legs. And again, if you're not on the belly today, I'm going to invite you to come and lay on your left side, just kind of like your hey lay-in, and you'll find the similar offering that we're going to do just from side body instead of what we say prone on the belly. And then if you are on the belly, let's lengthen the legs briefly, and then bring your right leg toward the back of your body. Could you just pause for a moment and almost give your hamstring a little squeeze? So here again, right, we kind of wake up the front of the leg by squeezing the hamstring, and then keep your left hand under your chin, bring your right hand behind you. See if you can connect to foot, and then soften your upper body into the mat. Feel your right hip press toward the floor. Your right knee might even start to hover and lift a little bit. And if you're on the side, we're doing that similar offering, that foot grab and kind of pressing your hips forward. Use the fact that this is often a stretch we take standing, which is great, but there's a little balance inherent to that. And this way we can just really give in. Our quadriceps are so tight so often, and any tension we carry in the front of the body can indirectly really stress out our lower back. So just feel some moments here. We stay on purpose because then the body actually responds. We give the amount of space and the breath into the stretch so we can get that full advantage. And then when you're ready, if you're on the belly and you're okay staying, release the leg. And again, I'm just going to take a little windshield wiper to just say thank you to my lower back. You could certainly come off the floor. If you were laying on your side, you might come back up kind of through a tabletop if that helps, or you could simply roll to your right side. And then once you're set up, we'll work through the left leg. So if you're on the belly, chin will stay on your right hand, left leg lifts toward the back of your body. Maybe give your hamstring a little squeeze. So you're just kind of telling your body, I actually want to find space in the front of the thigh. And then left hand can grab for left foot. Start to feel all other parts of your body relax. Even let your right leg go heavy and just give that full attention to the left quadricep. Maybe again, the left knee feels like it's hovering a little bit. Feel that left hip press into the floor. And if you're laying on your right side, kind of keeping that continual energy of sort of sending your hips away from you as you bring that heel to the back side. You might even get a little stretch in your left kind of shoulder and the side of the chest here. Take a few more breaths. If you're on your side or belly, notice if there's a gap. If your knees are starting to separate, we want to try to keep that leg just straight out from the hip. And then as you're ready, another breath, release, soften. We'll start to unwind that left side. Again, if you want to stay on the belly for another breath or two and just kind of windshield wipe, let your core even go soft. Let your belly release and relax. And then tucking hands next to chest, legs long. I'm going to come back up through tabletop. So if you want to just kind of check in with your back, you could take a few more movements. And then inviting you to drop to a hip. And we'll come to sit just briefly, just to help us come to lay on our backs. And this is where, if you do have access to your strap, let's have it within your reach and maybe that small pillow. And you can go to lying on your back however you like. I sometimes, again, just to be really intentional about my spine, I'm going to sit up really tall for a moment and just feel kind of a lift of my heart center, a draw up and lengthening from tail to crown. And then I'm going to hold the backs of my legs and almost kind of unwind with a rounded spine to let my spine articulate all the way down to the mat. And then once you're there, just give yourself a couple of movements. Maybe you want to sway the knees. It might feel good to give the knees a little hug. That kind of adds a little pressure across like the sacral area, across our lower back, and you could rock and massage your lower back that way. And then we'll find a stretch for the hamstring and kind of this outer IT band area, that outer quadricep that can often get really grouchy. I know for me when I'm running a lot. So we'll meet with the feet planted, knees bent about hip distance apart. Again, if you have a strap, grab it. If not, I'll support you through. Let's bring the right knee in. And if you do have a strap, you might have to use kind of a little crunch. So use a little core strength to wrap that strap around the ball mount of the right foot. Lay back down as you send your leg toward the ceiling. Now just layer this out here. So stopping first by pressing your right hip to the floor, energizing your right heel toward the ceiling, and just see how it feels to attempt to straighten the leg. We're not locking the knee, but I don't want to have this big bent knee and then try to bring my foot to my head. I'm trying to find length, yeah? You might even squeeze the front of your leg. Can you push your left foot into the floor as you maybe pull on that strap? So there's something for me about pushing my left foot more into the ground that I can create that little space for a little more pull. There is not a goal or a destination here. You don't have to touch your head behind, your foot behind your head. My hope is that you find a stretch that just feels good. You could be supporting your leg. I like doing one set of fingertips above and below the knee if you don't have a strap. So just kind of notice if you get in that mindset of like, I need to have the biggest stretch ever versus a stretch that your body says, ooh, thank you. Doesn't that feel good? Thank you. And then if it's okay, slide your left leg straight. Just kind of notice how that feels. That adds a bit of drama to the stretch and a little bit to the lower back. And then if you have a strap in particular, hold it with just your left hand, right hand next to your body. Maybe you even use your right hand to push down on your right hip as you cross the leg over your body. but I'm not trying to twist. I'm not rolling onto my left side. If you can keep that right hip pressing down, my hope is you feel more stretch in the outer band of muscle tissue on the outside of your right thigh. If you start to roll over, you might get some of that too, but then we're getting back into the spine. And my hope is we can emphasize the legs here. So feel like your whole back body is pressing to the floor. Can you still push through your heel? That activates so much more sensation for me when I'm keeping my foot flexed. And then bring it back to center. Bend your left leg if it went straight. Soften your right knee. Set your right foot down. And could you just pause for a few breaths? Just let it land, literally. Let the stretch just kind of ooze into your body. You might feel a little like tingling and moving of blood flow through that right leg. And if you listen carefully, your left leg might be saying, it's my turn. I'm ready. And when you are ready, then we'll find the other side. Give yourself a little dose of like stretching amnesia so you don't have an expectation about this leg. Again, I'm going to crunch up a bit, use my core to put the strap around, kick up through the heel. Focus on lengthening the leg first. Pushing your left hip to the floor, trying to avoid right away, trying to just pull the strap. That progression into a stretch just lets us be super thoughtful about what we're focusing on, where we can soften, and where we want to find that intention for this stretch in this moment on this day. Push through your right foot on the floor, and maybe you can pull on your strap or the support of fingers on the leg. And again, there's no goal here. You don't have to try to get to a certain place with your leg, with your foot. It's all about you feeling the response in your body. Maybe you even close your eyes for a moment so you're not even worried about what does my shape look like? What does your shape look like? It isn't about that. Send some breath into the back of your leg. Really send it there. Feel that hamstring. And then as you're ready, the right leg can slide out straight. Just see how that feels. Let your tailbone soften, and then again, holding the strap maybe just in your right hand, left hand can be next to you, or maybe you hook it against your hip. So as you try to cross that leg over, you're not tempted to lift up the left hip and twist. I'm really trying to press my left hip to the floor. And again, I don't have to go very far here, and I feel this immensely. This stretch can also help if you feel like your knees are grouchy, your knees are sore and tight. It is sometimes this outer band of muscle tissue that's creating some misalignment and stress around the knee joint. This is a great one to use. Keep that active heel toward the ceiling. Flex your foot. Breathe. Did I remind you to breathe ever? Big breath in, big breath out, and then bring the leg back to center. Return your right foot down, soften left knee, let the foot land. And again, can you do just that? Just let it land. Let your belly soften. Maybe your knees almost drift open for a moment. And then we'll just kind of rinse this out by thanking our spine. So I'm going to move my strap to the side, and I am going to use that small pillow, and I'll just kind of demonstrate for you here. I like going into a twist from lifted legs, but you could have the feet planted. And I'm having the pillow here because then my knees have a little gap when I twist, which my lower back prefers. Arms at your sides. Could you lift up and scoot your hips to the right slightly? The legs are lifted, and then we'll surrender the lower body to the left. So I'm taking this twist off the left side of my mat. Let yourself really roll onto your left side. Let your lower body just completely give in to the floor. And then because this is a twist of the spine, rather than thinking about your right shoulder doing a movement, could you feel like you're rotating your chest toward the ceiling? It does not matter at all where your right arm is. It does not matter if your right shoulder is off the floor or on the floor, but think about this literally being a rotation of your spine. That's what a twist is. We never force anything in a twist. We don't force the shoulder down. We don't force the arms to be flat to the floor. You could drop your right ear toward the floor if you want to bring whatever stretch you're finding in the spine all the way up and through the neck. It's just a preference in your body. Can you take a big breath in to lengthen your spine? And an exhale to feel just a little softer into the floor. Let yourself just kind of melt down. And then if you turned your head, let's look back toward the ceiling, maybe the sky if you're outside. Use a little core strength and a push of your arms on the floor to bring you back to center. And then I'd encourage you to stop and pause. Maybe you bring the feet down, If you have that pillow, you could just give it a hug, but give yourself a reset of the spine. Rather than going right away to the other side, just again, kind of let it land. Let your body absorb and soak in that stretch. And then we'll go the other way. So I'm going to use my pillow. I like lifting the legs. Again, I'm going to press my hands into the floor and just kind of lift and scoot my hips slightly to the left and then surrender to the right. Again, with that really kind of sense of heaviness through the legs, as though they're just going to melt right through the floor. You don't have to hang on through the legs. Can you let your inner thighs relax? And you might be feeling like you're almost laying on your right side, and that's okay. Then start to feel your torso rotate toward the ceiling. Again, to get to that point where you feel just a really nice stretch in your spine. You don't have to force your left shoulder down. Your left arm could be right next to your body if that feels good. And if you come to this practice often, let the twist you're taking right now be a reflection of what your body needs right now. Whatever the twist looked like yesterday doesn't matter. Maybe you drop your left ear toward the floor. All the maybes are truly choices for your body. Anything you're choosing doesn't make the shape better or harder. It isn't about that. Take another few breaths. Can the earth hold you a little bit more? Where do you feel like you're hanging on? My inner thighs just got tight. Can you let them soften? And then again, let's make sure you're looking straight up and have hands maybe close to your body. Press, use your core, come back to center. Maybe you take your pillow away, land the legs. Give yourself just a moment to kind of rinse out. And perhaps it would feel good for you here to take a full body stretch. I prefer to be more of kind of a star shape than a pencil. That just feels better to my body, but just give yourself a moment to just feel some length, feel some space. And then when you're ready, let's bring the knees to bend. Let's roll to whatever side makes sense for you. So just kind of roll over to one side. Maybe you give yourself just the tiniest moment to kind of squeeze into a ball. And then use your arms to help you press up. Let's come to be seated. In whatever seated position feels good. I'm going to choose cross-legged. You could even sit on that pillow if you like. Just give yourself a little shift of your sitting bones, a little wiggle. Feel your spine lengthen, your shoulders soften. Notice how your hips and knees feel simply being cross-legged. And I encourage you to just bring one hand over your heart if that's available, the other hand over the top. Just thank yourself. Thank yourself for making this time for this stretch. I do hope you feel some restoration in the body with this time. Taking a deep breath in and a big breath out, releasing some of the tension maybe we moved through the body, releasing maybe some tension you had in your mind. And until we meet again on the mat, I wish you so much peace and ease in your body and your mind. Namaste.